I have watched two kinds of founders make the same mistake from opposite directions. The first kind exits too early. Things are working. Revenue is stable. The business has momentum. But the founder is tired, or distracted by something new, or gets an offer that feels big enough and takes it. And then, 6 months later, they watch the thing they sold become something they could have built themselves if they had stayed just a little longer. The second kind never exits at all. They hold on past the point where holding on makes sense. The market shifts. The business plateaus. The energy required to maintain it outpaces the return it generates. But letting go feels like failure, so they keep going. Not because the business still serves them, because leaving feels like losing. Both of these are exit timing failures. And both of them come from the same root cause. The founder never had a clear framework for what exit actually means or when it makes sense to pursue it. That is what I want to talk about today. Most people think of exit as a single event. You sell the business. You walk away. The transaction happens, and then it is done. That framing makes exit feel binary. You are either in or you are out. And binary decisions are almost always the wrong frame for complex situations. The reality is that exit exists on a spectrum, and understanding that spectrum changes how you think about your options at every stage of building something. At one end of the spectrum is full liquidity. You sell everything. You take the money. You have no ongoing involvement in what you built. This is the exit most people picture when they hear the word. It is clean. It is final. And it is often the worst option available because it requires you to time the market perfectly, find a buyer who values what you built the way you value it, and walk away from something that may still have significant growth ahead of it. At the other end of the spectrum is a partial exit. You sell a portion of what you have built. You bring in a partner or an investor or a buyer who takes on some of the operational weight while you retain upside. You reduce your exposure without eliminating your position. You get liquidity without surrendering the asset entirely. Between those two ends is a range of structures that most founders never explore because they are thinking in binary terms. Licensing arrangements, revenue share deals, management buyouts where a team member takes on operational control while you retain ownership, earnout structures where the buyer pays over time based on performance. Each of these is a version of exit that gives you something without requiring you to give up everything. I spent a long time thinking about exit as something that happened at the end, a finish line, and that framing kept me from seeing the options that were available to me throughout the journey. The shift happened when I started thinking about exit not as a destination, but as a portfolio decision. The question stopped being when do I exit and became what is the right relationship between me and this asset at this stage of its life and mine. That reframe changed everything. Because once you think of it as a portfolio decision, the timing question becomes much clearer. You are not asking when should I stop. You are asking at what point does my involvement in this asset generate less value than my involvement elsewhere would. That is a much more useful question, and the answer to it changes over time as the business matures, as your own priorities shift, and as the market evolves around you. The founders who exit well are almost never the ones who time the market. They are the ones who understood their own position clearly. They knew what the business was worth to them operationally, what it would be worth to someone else, and what the cost of continuing to hold it was in terms of their own time, energy, and opportunity cost. When those three numbers aligned in a way that made a transition make sense, they moved. Not because someone made them an offer, because the decision was already clear before the offer arrived. The founders who exit badly are almost always the ones making a reactive decision. They exit because they are burned out and cannot see another way to stop being burned out. Or they exit because someone made them an offer and the number felt big enough in the moment. Or they never exit because no offer ever felt big enough, and the business quietly becomes a thing they maintain rather than a thing they build. The antidote to both of those failure modes is having a clear exit thesis before you need one. Not a rigid plan, a thesis. A set of conditions under which a full exit makes sense, conditions under which a partial exit makes sense, and conditions under which the right move is to stay and keep building. Having that thesis does not commit you to anything. It just means that when the moment arrives, you are making a deliberate decision rather than a reactive one. And deliberate decisions made from a position of clarity almost always produce better outcomes than reactive decisions made from a position of exhaustion or temptation. Your relationship with what you build should evolve over time. The intensity of involvement that makes sense at year 1 is not the intensity that makes sense at year 5. And the exit that makes sense at one stage of your life may be completely wrong at another. The goal is not to find the perfect exit. The goal is to always be in a conscious relationship with what you have built. To know why you are holding it, to know what would change that, and to move when moving makes sense, rather than when circumstance forces your hand. That is the difference between founders who look back on their exits with clarity and founders who spend years wondering if they got it right. If you have been here from the beginning, you know every episode builds on what came before. If today is your first video, go back to episode 1. Subscribe, because tomorrow we go further. I will see you then.